This question is to you. On the Republican primary ballot in June, there was a non-binding advisory question that asked if school board elections should be partisan. There have been efforts like this at the local level as well. Do you think that school boards should be partisan?
I think that there should be truth in advertising when people go to vote. And so, it's up to the General Assembly and ultimately the voters of the state to determine if that happens. But if it does, I will support it. But I'd like to go back and talk a little bit about funding of education in South Carolina. So this is the underfunding myth is something that we hear often from people who, again, their first answer is always, we just need to spend more money. That underfunding myth doesn't account for all of the rest of the education funding that we spend on K-12 education. Most voters don't know that we spend over $11 billion a year in South Carolina. That comes out to about $15,500 per student. That's also almost half of our total state budget. So we are spending a lot of money on education in South Carolina. The question is, how are we spending it? In my role at Palmetto Promise Institute, I have been privileged to work with the General Assembly over the last 5 or 6 years to make our funding stream much more accountable, to consolidate programs and line items into a true student-centered cost that is based on the needs of each individual student, whether they have a special need, whether they're gifted and talented, maybe whether they're in a rural area, whether they go to a charter school. It's critically important that we have transparency for our funding, and the way that we do that is tying dollars directly to students to make sure that they get back down into classrooms. But we are not underfunding education in South Carolina.
Thank you, Ms. Weaver. Ms. Ellis, a question to you about partisan school boards.
Right. Could you repeat what the actual question was?
Sorry, yeah, there was a primary ballot question there on the June primary ballot for the Republican Party, just about if the school boards should be partisan.
I firmly do not believe that they should. Again, as I said earlier, politics has no place in education. When you start making it more about party than about what is in the best interest of students, students lose. And that's what we have done. That's what this race has done. That's what my opponent has done, has made it all about rhetoric and politics instead of focusing on what the actual problems are in our public school system and working to fix those. So no, that needs to be, this actual office should be nonpartisan. And that's something that I believe very strongly in, because we need to do what is best for our students, and that has nothing to do with politics.
Ms. Weaver, rebuttal.
I completely agree that the interest of our students and our parents and our teachers are first and foremost what we need to be looking at in this race. But I think that there also has to be a real reckoning and accountability for our records. My opponent likes to run away from the fact that her SC for Ed group is part of a much larger Red for Ed movement that is funded by Randy Weingarten and the American Federation for Teachers, that was started to push partisan progressive politics in red states. That is a fact, and that is something that people within the movement will acknowledge at the national level. She also has received a $3,500 contribution from the National Education Association, which is one of the most radically left organizations in education. They believe in pronoun politics. They believe parents are domestic terrorists, much like Merrick Garland. And unfortunately, they also don't believe that English should be the primary language of the United States. And so these are people who are out of touch with the mainstream of South Carolina values. And these are the people who my opponent calls friends. So while she can pretend that politics isn't part of this race, she's the one who's brought it into it.
Ms.